you jog the whole day around. You touch food, you touch amazing product. You eat stuff every day that some people eat once a year. And you can be creative and I love being a chef.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Chefing these days isn't just about being able to cook. Managing staff, calculating food costs, and ensuring viability are just as important as wowing a guest on a plate. But how do you obtain the skills to make it? Guillaume Zika is the executive chef of Burleigh Pavillion and the Tropic, and co-owner of Freddy's Chicken Shop. Guillaume, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You're busy with a couple of venues up on the north coast of New South Wales. What's life like up there?
It's good. It's good. It's actually really, really good. Can't really complain. I mean, the weather is not the best at the moment, but most of the time it's sunny, it's warm. It's you by the beach. Seriously, there's not much to complain about.
You've cooked all over the world and find yourself in regional Australia in some ways. Did you ever expect to be where you are?
Not really. I mean, I'm from a big city, which is Paris, and I lived in other big cities like New York and London and Dublin and Sydney, and now, yeah, like you said, I'm in a little town called Burleigh Heads. And I'm loving it, but I guess this is life. When you get older, you're more looking into the quiet areas, and you're done with going out and the big crowds and all this busy town.
I want to get into all of the cities that you've lived in and the incredible restaurants you've worked at, but tell us a little bit about Burleigh Heads and what you're doing there.
Well, I'm managing the Burleigh Pavillion, so we opened about 4 years ago, and it's a massive business. We've got about 1,000 seats on the Burleigh Pavillion side, and then we've got not 1,000 seats, about 600 seats, and then we've got about 250 seats in a restaurant. So it's a big operation, and it's in a little town, Burleigh Heads, but believe it or not, it gets so busy. And every weekend we're full house. There's a queue at the door. We do about 600 covers in a restaurant in a whole day on a busy Saturday. In the Burleigh Pavillion side, we don't even count. It's just mental, but you know what? It's so much fun. So I only work in small 50-seat, 60-seat restaurants my whole life. And when Ben May came to me and was like, "Do you want to open the pavilion for me?" I was like, "Ooh, I don't know. Sure, all right, I'll do it." And so I took it as a challenge, and designing the whole kitchen's been really, really stressful and challenging because I never really put my foot in a big business like that. But he was a big challenge, and we made it. And now it's like the business run really smoothly on the weekend, and it's great. Loving it.
You've also got Freddy's Chicken Shop. Can you tell us a bit about that and how it came about?
So Freddy's Chicken Shop is something that I co-own with Rob Dumjan. Is someone who work at the pavilion as well, and Bain, the owner of the Burleigh Pavillion. So we talked about it for a little while. On the beginning, was almost like a little joke, being like, "Oh, how good would it be to have a chicken shop?" And we ended up, Rob almost took it a little bit more seriously and started looking for a site. And we ended up like, "Oh God, we got a good site. Like we might as well, make it happen." And so, we got into it. And September last year, we opened the door, and we've got a great corner on James Street on Burleigh Heads, and it's pumping. It's really good. So we simply roast chicken and some. So like on the French rotisserie, we've got a big display of salad. We do big like hot vegetables and mac and cheese and burgers, and only chicken burgers. We don't do anything else. And burgers, funny enough, they're so popular. Don't know why. I mean, it's because we just do chicken burgers, and they're all kind of different. And we use free range chicken. we marinate them in buttermilk and crown them, and it's great. Love it.
How different is it running a chicken shop compared to sort of the big venue like the Pavilion?
It's very different. So it's where you find it a bit challenging is that it's more fun in terms of it's less kind of it's not as serious as what we do here, because there's no table service, there's no it's all takeaway. So the atmosphere of the people working when you work at Freddy's is so relaxed, and people's got shorts on, and they got like you've got music the whole day, and you see the customer, and it's so nice. But saying this, because you're only really selling burgers and chicken, it's actually really hard to find people that are passionate about it. So compared to the Pavilion, where we do much more, I won't say interesting things, because it's interesting. We marinate the chicken over there as well, but it's much easier to find passionate people for the Pavilion than for Freddy's, because of this, because it's we're almost a burger joint, right? Even if we're doing it the right way and toasting every buns to order, and it's you still struggle to find staff that actually want to do it.
You mentioned that you're from Paris. Take us back to when you were young. What sort of role did food play for you?
Well, I was born in Paris, and when I was born, my parents used to own a restaurant in Paris, and it was really not a big restaurant, like a really family-owned restaurant. So my dad worked there. He was a chef. He's been a chef, for 20 years. My mom was running on the floor. My grandma was also working in it. It was really, and a lot of family friends were actually working on it too. So it's and I was living on the top floor. So I was quite young. I don't especially remember too much of it, but it's just the fact that my whole family was really part of hospitality business. It just rolled into your everyday life, and when we do family dinners, they're always great, and my dad cooks. He's an amazing cook. So is my mom. So is my grandma. So I always got great memories of family holidays.
Are there any feasts that you remember that you can tell us about?
My dad used to love to cook a duck à l'orange, and it's something that's not easy to cook. I mean, you can cook it, but doing it well, it's really hard to do. And every time when we had special occasion, he was cooking it, and everyone used to love it. He was great. My mom used to love making one dessert as well, and it was a tarte bourdaloue, which is a tart with poached pear and a frangipane. And I think this is one of my favorite desserts, and I used to cook it all the time myself afterward when I became a teenager. And I think this is what got me a little bit into it, into the cooking.
Do you have any stories of the first couple of years working in a commercial kitchen and the sort of impact it had on you?
Yeah. I mean, it's I wanted to work in really high end places when I was young, because I just saw if I start hard, it's easier to go down. But if you start in a small restaurant, it's hard to go in those high end restaurants, because it's almost scary. And so I started I did my apprenticeship in a restaurant called Le Relais Louis XIII in Paris, and the head chef was Manuel Martinez, a really famous French chef, very old-fashioned. He was a meilleur ouvrier de France, a MOF, and he was pretty crazy. It was a very small kitchen and high pressure, always screaming. He was very intense, and the memory of the stress that I had over there, like those panic that you've got sometimes if you spill something, you're like, oh my god, and you almost freeze because you don't know what to do, and because you're scared to get yelled at, and it's plenty of memory in there, plenty of cries, plenty of stress. But it's funny. Yeah, I think it just makes you who you are today, and it makes you stronger. It makes you act differently, because you don't want to the people under you to be under the amount of stress and to have that fear, if you know what I mean. It's good. It's good school.
That determination that you had at a young age to work in the best restaurants took you all over the globe. Tell us a little bit about some of the venues that you've worked at, and how it affected the path that you've been on.
I worked in a place in Paris called Le Grand Véfour, and this was really a place that I learned a lot about acting like a chef and organizing myself and just being who you are today, and getting good habits. It was a 3 Michelin star, and it was the first time I worked in one. And you just start from the bottom, and you just grow and grow and grow. And I remember I had it was a section called l'entremet, where they do all the garnish for the meat and the fish. And the guy who was working in that section, he was pretty crazy. His name was Mauro Colagreco. I don't know if you know him. He's now got his own restaurant in south of France called Mirazur. And he was the chef de partie of that section. And I was like, oh, that guy is crazy. I kind of want to work with him, because I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot. But no one wanted to work with him, and everyone was so scared. And one guy of that section, he had 2 people under him. One guy of that section left, and I put my hand up straight away. And I was like, can I work in that section? And everyone was like, yeah, sure, go. Go for it. He was pretty hard. He was pretty crazy, but you learn so much when you go the hard way, because the hard way obviously is got to be a good person, but you learn so much in so many levels that for your future I feel like it's so beneficial. And then he left, and when he left, you opened the Mirazur. I took over the section, and because you embrace it so much, and it teaches you so much that you can actually end up doing his job. And I ended up very quickly becoming a chef de partie over there, and it was a great experience. It was a great experience.
You ended up working in New York and London. Per se, in New York, renowned restaurant. How different was that kitchen compared to the ones you'd been in previously?
Per se was a very special experience. It's my English when I arrived there was not the best. I knew how to cook, but understand what people were saying to you, understand the sequence of service that they're using during the service of it is very. Per se is a very, very different kitchen than any other kitchen in the world. The structure, it's so structured. Everything is like you can't go on the side. You can't improvise. You can't. It was really, really, really challenging and so stressful. That place because of it, and I learned a lot over there. I don't have the best memory of it. I feel like it was almost too like not enough it was not really run like a family restaurant. You know what I mean? It's like almost like this big company whose everything is, I don't know. It was really, really strange. And when I was there was the big economic crisis in the world. I can't remember. It was 2009 or something. And everyone was just getting fired for nothing, because they were trying to cut down the wages, because it was not as busy as they were meant to be. So everyone was so stressed about this, and every time someone was overcooking a piece of fish, it was like, almost crying because he was scared that he was going to get fired, and I ended up getting fired because I came late twice. Like it was a very, very strange experience. But on the cooking side, I learned a lot about labeling, cutting a label with the scissors and putting your initial on it, and everything really nice and straight on in a food. It's all this, but yeah, it was great. It was great. Would I do it again? I don't know. It's hard to tell.
You spent time living in London as well. Tell us about what life was like then for you.
So London was great. It was fun. It's a really fun city to live in. I took when I came back from New York, I sent my resume to Hibiscus Restaurant. The chef was Claude Bossy. The Hibiscus Restaurant doesn't exist anymore. Now we opened the Bibendum. So it was a 2 Michelin star at the time, and I sent my CV over there, and he was looking for a sous chef. So I just like, oh, you know what? Let's take a little jump and become, and take a sous chef position. And I think Hibiscus was probably the hardest place I worked in. Claude was not always, the easiest person to work with, but he was such an amazing cook. He's a mentor for me. He teach me so much. He ran his business like a family-owned restaurant. On top of being a great chef, I think he was really strong on knowing how make the experience great. For all the waiters and the restaurant manager, from to the host, and small restaurants, you clean everything, right? So you don't have cleaners. So I remember him telling the waiters how to clean properly the toilets. And he was like, so if you want to make sure the toilet's clean properly, what do you need to do? So you need to sit down on it, right? So you sit down on it and you look in the corners that you actually don't look. You look at the door. You look at the spider webs on the top corner left. And it's true, but it does the same for everything. He used to sit down in a restaurant once or twice a week and to eat his food, and to get served by the waiters and to see what he could improve on the way they act and on the dish itself that he was eating. He was coming quite often with his friend Anthony Dimitri, who owns a couple of restaurants, who's got Michelin stars as well, and they were doing autocritic of his food and the service together, and it's a fantastic exercise, and it's something that I do here quite often, and we do briefing every day here in Tropic, and almost at the end of every briefing, I ask everyone to sit down in a restaurant in different spot and to tell me, as a guest, they're here with their boring wife, and they've got nothing to do than just looking everywhere, and what can they say that is not right? What can they see that's not right? And you spot so many things that when you, as a waiter or as a chef, when you walk into the restaurant, you don't see them because you only focus on the top of the table, and that's it. You don't look at how the dust on the bottom of the chairs or how all the plant looks like, all those little things, and it's a great skill to have to really put yourself as a guest instead, just standing in a kitchen and trying your food and all this. It's incredible.
You moved to Australia a decade ago. Tell us about that decision.
In London, I met my wife, Jess, and she's Australian. So she wanted to come back to Australia, and I was like, well, sure, why not? So we give it a go. She's from Brisbane, but she didn't want to come back to Brisbane. So it was like, well, let's go to Sydney. There's probably more opportunity for me to get a job anyway. So we moved to Sydney, and we loved it. We loved it. I find my home in a place called Cottage Point Inn, and that was a really challenging place to take over because very, very small kitchen in the middle of nowhere, getting getting suppliers to come over there was hard. I was going for about 2-3 years. I was there for 4 years. For about 2-3 years, every morning, not every morning, like 3-4 times a week, I was going to pick up the fish at a market. Not because I wanted to get the best fish. It's just because the supplier was not delivering over there, getting stuff was really hard as well because no bus was going there, no train. If you had to have a car, and it's right on top of the northern beaches, so a lot of things were really challenging. But it was a great experience. I mean, what a place! It's stunning, it's beautiful, and we made it to I think we transformed it to a great restaurant. I arrived over there, and after 6 months, we managed to get a hat, and it was really, really hard to find chefs still. And I remember, at a point, after a year, we're only 3 of us in the kitchen. I had a 17 years old apprentice and a 45 years old lady in the kitchen, and we're like, oh my god, like what's gonna happen? We're gonna lose the hat. And we go to the ceremony. I went to the ceremony, I remember, with the apprentice because, that he was not my sous chef, but he was, he was the guy who was managing the kitchen, really. And I remember getting a second hat, and I was like, oh my God, we're going to be in trouble now. But the structure that we put in the kitchen was so strong that we ended up, every time we had someone who come to work in the kitchen, they ended up loving what we created, and slowly we built up a great team. And my head chef at the moment that I've got at the Burleigh Pavillion, he was my sous chef over there. So I've been working with him for 6 years, it's great. It's great. Everyone that worked over there, they end up being great chefs, and it's so rewarding. Taking a place who was really down to transform into something amazing. It's for yourself, it feels really good.
You've cooked all over the world in some pretty incredible restaurants, but tell me about your food and your voice on the plate.
Well, I'm a very simple person. I like eating very simple food, but just well cooked. I used to be different. I used to be very, love all complicated things, and slowly, I think it's when you get older as well. It's the same with living in big cities and start, living in town that are much more, quiet. Like with the food, it's the same. You like comfort food. It's what you want at the end. Eating a simple piece of fish with some beautiful extra virgin olive oil and a slice of lemon, sometimes it's so much better than something with some eucalyptus and some weird stuff on top of it. Not that it's bad, but sometimes it's just what you want to eat. And so what I'm trying to achieve on the plate is just to put good ingredients together, and to put things who's just really tasty, but just to keep it very simple. And our menu at the Tropic, it took us a while to get there because, again, you tend to always try to make it a little bit more complicated, but we end up being like, let's just go simple. Let's just go simple, and let's do what people want and people what comfortable with, because we're big space. We can't do too weird either because no one would come. And now with our menu, it's actually really hard to change it because it's so almost classic that as soon as we take one dish off to replace it with something that that's good as well, but it's different, they're like, oh, where's that dish? It's like, so we end up hardly ever changing our menu, but we just run with specials to bring things exciting, because it's so almost classic. It's like in a pizzeria, you got a margarita, you got a capricciosa, you got a prawn pizza. You can't change them, you can't take them off. That is true. You go there and you're like, oh, you don't have any margaritas? Oh no, we like doing margaritas with the fancy stuff. Like, oh, okay, cool. You know what I mean? It's different. So this is us in the tropic. It's really what we do, and I love cooking this. I love eating in the tropic. It's great.
You briefly mentioned the importance of the structure in the kitchen while you're at Cottage Point Inn. One of the things you've created is a program designed for chefs to help calculate food costs and manage recipes. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, yeah, about 5 years ago, I wanted to use to be a bit more. I always did my costing on the spreadsheets, on an Excel spreadsheet, like I think every chef does. And but my spreadsheet was so complex that it was actually really frustrating. So I was like, I'm gonna have a look if I can find a program online that does the job. And I couldn't find something really that I was happy with. So I was like, maybe I should just build one. And this is how Chef Notepad got created, and so I designed it around the way I work and the way I want things to be done, and the way I always worked, and slowly when I started having some people using it, they say, do you think you could do this, and do you think you could do that? So slowly it evolved to suit a lot of other people.
How much of a difference does being on top of all of this sort of stuff in the kitchen make for the operations that you do with the kitchen?
He actually makes you more confident in what you do. There's a lot of you always ask yourself so many questions, saying, is it actually worth it to do that dish? Do we actually make enough money? What can we do better? Is that set menu that waiting comes up, is it the right price to sell? But the fact that all this information, them, and it's accurate. They include wastage, and they include the taxes, and it makes you. It actually makes you more confident and feel better about things. And when there's always this job that you never want to do, and you put it aside, and you're always frustrated because in the back of your head, you need to do it, but you don't do it. Very often it's because you don't have the right tool, but it's just so it makes you feel good that it's actually done properly, rather than be like, I know, I'm on top of my food costs, but do you really know? There's a dish who brings all your food costs down, but you don't know it. You know what I mean? It's so important those days to be on top of your food costs, to your spending and how much cost the food that you put on a plate. Prices is so high, they're going up and up and up, and it's really hard to put a price up on a menu. The suppliers don't really mind putting the price up, but as a restaurant, it's hard. It's hard, and knowing that you're doing the right things for to be profitable as a business, it's good. It's very important.
You worked in some pretty incredible restaurants all over the world. But how different is working in a kitchen in Australia and the Australian culinary landscape compared to your experiences abroad?
It's hard to tell, I think, because in every kitchen around the world, 10 or 15 years ago, it was really different than the way the world is now. I was not in Australia 10 or 15 years ago, but I'm sure they were working more than 8 hours a day. At the moment, it's really, we used to work, 12, 15, 18 hours a day, and it was normal. And those days, it's not normal anymore. It's normal, a full day, it's 8 hours. As soon as you do 9 hours, you're like, oh, that's a lot of hours, I'm a bit tired. So 10 years ago, it was very different, and so it's really hard to compare, the kitchen in the world. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's very strange.
You've built an amazing career and had such an impact upon your arrival in Australia. What do you love about what you do?
Is the atmosphere in the kitchen. It's something you would miss. I don't know, working in the office and or doing something else. It's, you kind of working with this little family. You talk, you joke the whole day around. You touch food, you touch amazing product. You eat stuff every day that some people eat once a year. And you can be creative and I love being a chef. I love being a chef. I don't know what else would I do if I was no one. It's I'd be lost.
Well, it's amazing what you've done since you've been here. Please keep in touch, and we'll catch up again soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.